Hello and welcome to Primetime Live. My name is Flora Kaitesi. Today we have the honor of hosting the Foreign Affairs Minister of Ethiopia, Mr. Tedros Adhanom. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
We'll get right on to it. During this 27th African Union Summit, it has been asserted that this is the first time that African leaders have spoken with one voice regarding issues on the continent. My question to you as we open this discussion is, how confident should we be about this new momentum?
Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it. This is a very good opportunity for me. This is my first time, by the way, to be interviewed by Rwanda's media, so it's a great opportunity. First of all, before I go to your question, I would like to share with your audience how happy I am and how proud I am because you have hosted the best summit. And this is not just me. Many of my colleagues agree. And this is really great. Not only how it's organized and the facilities and so on, including the outcome. You have shown to the rest of our continent how best a summit can be organized. So I'm really proud, and I would like to say to the government and to the people of Rwanda, congratulations. And you hosted this and many more events to host also. You can do it, you have already shown. And I can see that there is really a huge potential being created for conference tourism. And I said to the government and people, because it's, what the government has done, and also the people that really brought this result. And I'm really proud, as I said earlier. And the other thing is, maybe the other side, is the outcome also, and which is related to your question actually, especially on financing Africa. The budget of the African Union. There was one voice, and everybody was really strongly speaking about this. It reminded me actually what you say in Rwanda, agaciro. There cannot be dignity without really trying to help ourselves. And the goal of this financing our union is to cover 100% of the regular budget for the union and 75% of the program, and also 25% of the peacekeeping. As you know, peacekeeping is not just about our continent only. We need support from others also, because any problem here could affect the whole world. Any problem anywhere also can affect the whole world. But we're very glad that this had happened. There was really a very strong and one voice. And I believe that if we continue to have a common position, one voice on issues, both internal and something that affects us from outside, we can really do better. For us as a continent, as Africa, the best or the strongest instrument we have is that one voice. So I'm very hopeful for the future, that if we continue to have a strong and united voice on issues that affect us, that we can make a difference as a united force. It's our unity which is the strengths we have, and we have to use it to the maximum.
I'd like to pick up on a point that you mentioned about financing the African Union, and this summit also saw quite new momentum in developing new recommendations for financing the African Union. Talk to us a little bit more about what this means for Africa to achieve financial independence.
Yeah, for Africa to achieve financial independence, maybe just in one word, Rwandese, is agaciro, the dignity. We have to really increase domestic or continental resources to cover our expenses. I told you about the 100% of the regular budget, 75% of the program budget, and 25% of the peace fund. But our aim is to cover everything fully, because it's by using your own resources that you can also have 100% say on what you want to do, on your priorities. So it gives you ownership also. So we need to own our own business. We need to own our own destiny. For that to happen, I think it's not just the finance issue, really increasing the contribution from our continent, but it has political implication also. Being independent, owning, ensuring ownership, and really working based on our priorities. For instance, we have a goal now, Agenda 2063, having prosperous, peaceful, and also integrated Africa. And for that to happen, we have already designed the means to get there. How do you get there? And in order to really make sure that this happens, then the resourcing, the bulk of the resourcing should really come from us, and we should really focus on this priority, or on the priorities that we have set for ourselves, focus on it and achieve what we have, what together we are aspiring to achieve.
And this reminds me about the African passport that was launched during this this 27th African Union Summit, which is aimed at promoting free movement of people across the continent. But on the other hand, critics are saying that this passport is not enough. There needs to be much more to be done in order to achieve an integrated Africa. What do you think is that should be done?
I agree, it's not enough. It's not enough, but it's a good step forward. And in addition to that, we have other initiatives. For instance, the Northern Corridor Initiative on increasing the mobility of people between the three countries, Rwanda, Kenya, and Uganda. There are very innovative ways of increasing the mobility of people, and even using their national ID to cross borders. So we need to really aim to have free movement for all citizens. And for that to happen, we have to scale up the models we have, like in the Northern Corridor. It's what we do in the regional economic communities then together throughout the continent, could be west, south, north, and center, we can bring that united Africa. So, the integration or the movement cannot just happen in one day. We should start from the foundation, like what the Northern Corridor initiative is doing, and to really make it happen at regional level, and then take that to the continental level. So we're doing that, but we have to really speed up. You can consider our Africa as a big island and as one, and we should think that way, and we should really start stopping these silos we have, and consider Africa as one big island that should really connect with each other. As the other important element is, for mobility to happen, I don't think a passport or national ID would do without infrastructure. So as per the Agenda 2063 and also the first 10 years plan, and then the NEPAD, we have to really work hard on infrastructure. It's by connecting our continent, roads, rail, air, and all means of transportation, that we can create the environment for our people to move freely also. It's not just a passport or use of ID, which is important. The infrastructure is important. Once the infrastructure is there, then people can move around for a purpose, trade, investment. And then you see that natural unity of our people throughout our continent. Then the passport and the ID will have also relevance. So it's a combination of several factors that can really bring our continent together. And we have to consider all the factors. For instance, trade, intra-Africa trade is not more than 12% of the total trade we do with the rest of the world. And this is really shame. We need to really connect on trading among ourselves. There is a huge market in our continent that we can tap. We normally tend to look outside Africa as if better things are found outside Africa. But I assure you, there are better things in our continent, and trading, between ourselves, and better opportunities for all of us. And that's why the free trade, the continental free trade, was also one of the issues we discussed. So the mobility cannot just be done alone, not just passport or ID only. We have to really invest on infrastructure. We have to invest on opening up our trade for each of us, and then that will really bring integrated Africa.
Now, discussions at the African Union also delved into issues of security on the continent, and Ethiopia, as we know, has had a significant role in maintaining the region's peace and security. During this summit also, the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon was in town, and he met with the Intergovernmental Authority on Development on the sidelines of the AU summit, specifically about the issue of South Sudan. And he said that the IGAD and AU need to send strong signals to the South Sudanese leadership. So I'd like to hear from you. Help us unpack what exactly these strong signals mean.
Yeah, first of all, peace in South Sudan is really good for the whole region, the neighborhood, and beyond. And peace in Ethiopia, the same thing. So we need to help each other, and we need to support each other because South Sudan's peace is our peace, and our peace is South Sudan's peace. And that's what has been said during the summit. And then when I come to what His Excellency the Secretary General said, this is related to the recent round of conflict that started July 7 in Juba, and conflict between government and the opposition group. And everybody was disturbed and saddened by this new round of conflict. Because, as you know, the two parties have actually started implementing the peace agreement, and that was progressing well. And many of us, from the neighborhood, the whole continent and beyond, were expecting the implementation of the peace agreement, and never expected that a new round of conflict would happen. So what he was basically saying was that those who have started the renewed conflict should really be taken to account. If there is no accountability, then the same thing can repeat again. So while ensuring accountability, then you also move into implementing the peace agreement under the national government of the transitional national government of unity. And
this leads me to my next question, which still talks about pockets of instability here and there in the African continent. During the African Union Summit, discussions touched on human rights with a particular focus on women's rights. And you find that in cases of conflict, it's these vulnerable groups of women and children, for that matter, that suffer. So one would wonder, are there, say, for example, interventions, to protect women and children in times of conflict?
Yeah, on conflict, by the way, one thing that we need to underline is the focus on conflict prevention. You see conflict here and there, and then people start acting after the conflict has happened. It's just firefighting. I think we need to rethink that. And there is now global consensus now really forming that the focus should be on conflict prevention, which is better than cure. Of course, you focus on conflict, but even while focusing on, you focus on conflict prevention, but while even focused on conflict prevention and trying your best, you can have some conflicts. Then when that happens, you have a swift action to really manage it before a serious damage actually happens. And as you rightly said, during conflict, children and women are the most affected. And from the very beginning of the conflict, I think a special focus should be given to civilians, especially within that civilian category, women and children, to get the necessary protection. And that's why we're asking, especially from our continent, a revised mandate for UN peacekeeping missions, so the UN troops can really protect civilians and especially children and women proactively. That's not happening, but I think there is now a call and demand from all corners, and this is very important for the whole world, that the revision of the mandate can help in ensuring better protection. I remember during a recent summit, His Excellency President Kagame was raising an issue to this effect. The troops, the UN troops in their camps, wait in their camps, and when a conflict breaks out, even when the civilians in the conflict run towards the UN camps, the troops actually don't even go towards the civilians where the civilians are coming from to receive them or to welcome them from halfway or quarter of the way. They just wait. And those who cannot manage to reach the camp, the civilians, they could actually be killed or massacred before they reach the camp. So this is the problem within the mandate of the UN troops, which I agree with His Excellency the President. So there needs to be a revision of the mandate to have a better management when a conflict actually breaks out, especially to protect civilians and from them women and children. Then the third is accountability. I think has a deterrence effect. When you ensure accountability, and when those who perpetrate are punished, then that could deter wrongdoings from happening in the future. So that accountability issue is very, very important. So this, I think, the three are key. So focus on conflict prevention. When conflict breaks out, start as soon as possible and manage it properly. And third, the accountability issue. Yeah.
Let's now get into Rwanda-Ethiopia relations. The two countries have committed to deepening bilateral ties, and last year President Kagame was on a state visit to Ethiopia to that effect. Where do we stand in as far as that relationship is concerned from your end?
No, relationship is very strong. I come very often here and frequent visits also by our principals, President Kagame, our Prime Minister, foreign ministers, my sister Louis Mushikiwabo, myself regularly. By the way, I would like to tell you one thing. As I said, I am a regular visitor, and when I see this country really changing, always on the move, it's incredible. I can see it even when I come in 3 or 4 months space. I see new things. You have to keep up this even faster. Then I will tell you one thing that someone who works for African Development Bank here told me. The problem in Rwanda is they're moving very fast, and we're having difficulty catching up with them. Do that fast, and then whoever partner have difficulty catching up. So I'm really very proud. I'm not talking about Kigali only. Last year, for instance, I have been to Kabale. This is a small town in Uganda, on the border area with Rwanda. It's around 120 kilometers, if I'm not wrong. And throughout that 100 something kilometers, you see left and right how this country is really changing. So that's very important again. Not only the urban areas, but the rural majority, I think, is really changing, and that's very, very, very good. So I'm very happy, and I would like, and I'm very attached also with Rwanda, and I would like to say, actually, if you allow me, Uhunda Rwanda.
Well, that's great.
Somebody was correcting me when I said Dagukunda Rwanda. No, that's, you say Uhunda.
Yeah.
And I really see the hospitality here and the hard work of the people. And the government knows what it wants and how to achieve it. So a government that knows where it would like to be and how to get there, combined with mobilization of the people to really contribute, because it's the power of the people that can really change things, is bringing change.
Do we expect to see any new areas of cooperation between Rwanda and Ethiopia in future?
So our partnership is very strong, be it political, economic, and social. And but as you know, our focus now is on trade and investment. Although we have strong and historic relationship, we both understand that the ties in trade and investment is not as strong as one would expect. So we're focused on that. Mm-hmm. And when His Excellency President Kagame visited Ethiopia, he brought with him people from the private sector in Rwanda, and our two chambers had met to really discuss on boosting this area of our partnership, and we expect a lot from that. But we have to nurture it regularly, and we have to focus on trade and investment. There are many things that we can learn from each other, and really having that comprehensive bond, government to government, party to party, people to people, business to business is very important. So I expect more to happen. And from that state visit, I can see our private sectors really working together, introducing products from Rwanda to Ethiopia, from Ethiopia to Rwanda. But we have to continue to nurture that.
Which also brings me to my next question, which is related to that, where Rwanda and Ethiopia signed an air service agreement, which allows the airlines of both countries to operate without restrictions. And as a result, what kind of impacts are we seeing from that?
You know, the market share of airlines in our continent is really small, in our own continent, by the way. And that is very disappointing. We need to have a better share of our own continent, and we can do that by creating good airlines, and then also creating synergy, working as a team. That's exactly what we did. And there is this idea even, you know, East African Airlines, or in the future even that can grow to another airline, while keeping our flags, we can still work in a way that creates synergy. And KQ could come to this also. We have discussed with KQ, Kenyan Airways, with our colleagues there. So there is this idea now which is coming. We are not competitors. We can collaborate and maximize a share of the market, and then have better airlines, continental, that can get a better share of the market here. So I think Ethiopian and Rwanda Airways, it's a good one, pathfinder, and we have to really maximize on that and even think bigger. And we need to think like what we have started in a very strategic way.
Now, in winding up, Ethiopia was elected as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council and promised to work with commitment to ensure the benefits of Africans in developing countries. Could you share with us some of the specific areas that Ethiopia intends to put on the table of the Security Council?
Yeah, very briefly. One, I think we will focus on conflict prevention. Conflict prevention. We will do our best for the UN to make this a priority and to always think about prevention, understanding the basic trends, the daily events, and really see what that means, understand the root cause of problems, and focus on prevention. I think Rwanda is well known on that now, especially after the genocide. And we have to really work together to focus on prevention, on preventing something bad from happening first. That's one. And the second focus will be, I said this earlier, on strengthening and improving the way the UN peacekeeping operation actually, or peacemaking actually is run. It should be more effective and also efficient. And we will try to contribute to that, because you cannot prevent everything. We'll have some leaks here and there. So those leaks should be managed properly. And the third is on fighting terrorism. As you know, terrorism started in our part of the world. Before Al-Shabaab, there was a group called Al-Ittihad Al-Islamiyah. And it used to even assassinate or bomb hotels in the early 1990s in Ethiopia. And then that shifted into Al-Shabaab now. So we know what terrorism means. And when the whole world seemed safe, it actually started in the corner of our world. Now terrorism knows no borders. It's everywhere. It's in our continent, it's in Europe, it's in the US, it's in Asia. No country is immune, as I see it. And at the UN level, it really calls for a strong solidarity. We need to really work together. This is a threat to the whole world. So that's the third. And the fourth is migration. And of course, migration cannot be managed without understanding the root cause of the problem. And the root cause of migration in many instances is conflict. And of course, poverty also. So working on migration is really key. And it's becoming very political and even affecting governments in Europe and, shaking the very survival of some countries. So working on migration as a global agenda is very important. So these are the 4 priority areas, among other things, that we will focus when we start our term as a member of the UN Security Council, non-permanent.
And finally, as we wind up, you previously served as Ethiopia's health minister from 2005 to 2012, before you were appointed, of course, Minister of Foreign Affairs. And you're also an internationally recognized malaria researcher and served as chair of the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. Now you have the backing of the whole continent as a candidate for the World Health Organization Director General post. Now, what is your take on the proclamation that an African now needs to head the World Health Organization, because no African has ever done that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. First of all, when I ran for this position, what we have agreed as a continent is we shouldn't really bet on saying this is our turn. No African has been the head of WHO, Director General of WHO. No. Number one is the merit. And my colleagues have checked that. As you rightly said, I led our health ministry around 8 years. And during that time, we reformed the health system. The reform covered almost all corners of the health system. It was very comprehensive. The service delivery, the workforce, access to drug, financing, even early detection of epidemics, information system, you name it. So almost the whole blocks of the health system were covered, and the health sector was reformed beyond recognition. And this experience is very, very relevant for many developing countries and even beyond. And not only the reform, but like Rwanda, Ethiopia is one of the few countries that achieved the many of the Millennium Development Goals. And it's because of that reform. So I was part of that reform. I was one of the leaders of that reform. And we have not only reformed the system, but the reformed system also delivered. So that's one. So this is a merit issue. And the second is, I have also experience in international global health leadership. While I was working as health minister, I was pro bono board chair of many global institutions like Global Fund. And fortunately or unfortunately, I joined as chair of the Global Fund board during its difficult times, and we reformed it in the 2 years I was serving as chair of the board. And then chair of Rollback Malaria, chair of Partnership for Maternal Neonate Child Health, and chair of UNAIDS board also. So I have that experience of the national and also international. And this is coupled with my own experience as African, growing up with, fighting all these health problems, meaning malaria or other health problems. So I understand it as a person. I understand it as part of my community, whole community, our continent. That helps me understand also the root cause of these problems, and even best positioned to understand, if you know the root causes, to bring solutions also. Mm-hmm. Not only for our continent, but for developing countries. And since Africa and the developing countries carry most of the burden of the health problems globally, then that will help the rest of the world also. And since I will be a DG for the whole world, then that understanding of root causes and bringing solutions based on that will also help the developed world in getting benefit from the experience we have. So I would like to underline that we're getting into the race. We got into the race based on merit. So if they look at the merit without any prejudice that we always face, I'm sure we will win. If they fairly see who the other competitors are as an individual, and then as a continent, what I'm bringing, the fresh perspective. Then the second is what you said, no DG before, while we have it doesn't mean that there were no other, what do you call it, able African candidates before. There is this prejudice. And to be honest, I will tell you honestly, the other candidates say, no, we know how to raise funds, so we will give you money. You don't need to be the DG because you cannot raise funds because you're from a poor country. So it's better if the WHO position is taken by a rich country, so that person can bring money from its country to give. But I can give you my own experience. When I was chairing the Global Fund, if the money is the issue, I was chairing the Global Fund. When we replenished or raised funding for the Global Fund in 2 years, we raised billions of dollars. Even it was the highest record during that time, highest. So if money is the issue, it can be raised. It doesn't need the person to come from a developed or developing country. People finance, if you have the right cause at hand to be financed. They don't give me because I am from a developing country or a developed country. They want to finance what is at stake. Do they really believe in it? But since we're talking about WHO leadership and changing WHO, reforming WHO, it's not the finance which is the problem now. It's actually finding someone who can really make a difference with the right experience and capacity.
Indeed, thank you very much, and of course all the best on that.
Thank you.
As you have been hearing, we had the honor today of interviewing the Foreign Affairs Minister of Ethiopia. Thank you so much once again for joining us on Primetime Live. My name is Flora Kaitesi. We'll see you soon.